Alright YouTube, in this video we are going to see how to create a quiz app. As you can see, we have a question along with four options. If you click on wrong option, the background turns to red. If you click on right answer, background turns to green, and again the next button shows up. Again, once you click on next, the next question shows up. If you click wrong answers, the background is still orange. But if you click on right answer, you will see along with the next button, so it will move to the next question. I have at present added only 3 questions. Once it is completed, you'll see you have completed the quiz, and if you wish to restart, you can click on the restart button, and again the same questions is going to get repeated. Fine, we are going to see how to create this tutorial using JavaScript. This is the 28th JavaScript. To follow along, I'll leave the source code in the description. Fine, in this tutorial we are going to see how to use children property, how to use firstChild property, how to use removeChild, how to use while loop and for loop, how to use condition, and how to create an array and object. And I leave this notepad text in the description. Fine, when you extract the file, you will get one index, one HTML file, script and style sheet. And I'm going to remove all the script and start from scratch so that you can catch up with me. I'll be explaining the HTML, the required HTML. So if you refresh, this is how it looks without script tag. Fine, now I have added class hide to hide some questions and answer when page loads. So if I remove the class, you will see this is the design for it. We have a container. Inside a container we have two parent div. The first one is question container and the second one is controls. The question container holds the question and the answer buttons. You can see this is question, which is 5 plus 10, and then the buttons. This is in one div. If you look at another div, it is a controls with class controls. We have start and next along with id start and next. Now when the page loads, I want the question to get hidden. So to hide, I have added a class called hide. So I'm going to use these id in the JavaScript. So let me collect all the id from the HTML so that I can call them in the JavaScript and perform operation accordingly. So let me create a variable. So this variable will simply hold the element with id. So the first element I'm going to pass is simply the question container, and I'm going to store it into a variable called question controller question container HTML. Fine, this div will simply can be accessed using the variable. Likewise, I'm going to convert all the elements to the variable so that I can use them in the JavaScript. Fine, now you have to understand the 3 classes: hide, success and danger. Hide will simply display none, the block. So by default, when the page loads, I want the question to get hidden, question and the answer button along with the next button. Now if you refresh, you will see only the start button. So I'm going to add a listener to the start. So when I click on start, I want to show the question and answer. Simply I want to remove the class which I have added manually. So to remove the class in JavaScript, we'll see I'm going to add a click listener to the start button. To access the start button, I can use the variable which I have created. So it's a click event. So once I click on it, I want a function to get triggered. So that function will simply remove all the class hide. So the question ID has a class. So to remove class list, the class list property will give all the class of the question div. Now you can see I have removed it using the function remove. The same way, answer container also has the class hide, and I have removed it using JavaScript using the property class list dot remove. Remove is a function and class list is simply the property. And I'll temporarily show you how to show the button next, but we don't need at present. Let me comment it. And once I click on start, I want the start button itself to get hide. So the opposite of remove is add. So you can see once I click, the start button gets disappeared and the next shows up. So let me hide the start, sorry, the next for now. Fine, you can see now we have removed and added the hide class. Now we are going to create an object, and we are going to create an array. This array hold question as an object form. So the object question is a property, and what the question you want to ask is the value for the question. And again I'm going to pass array inside the object. So the answer for 5 plus 5 is, it would be in the object form, not in the, sorry, it would be in the array form, not the object form. Let me create the object. Fine, I would be passing two values. We have answer, and to identify which answer is right, I will be passing another variable, or you can say another property, which is in the boolean form. 5 plus 5 correct is false. 5 plus 5 is not 15, so I'll say false. So 5 plus 5 is 10, so this time I'll make it true. And rest 5 plus 5 is not 25, 5 plus 5 is not 50, so I'll add correct false. So now not only the one question, I need three questions like that, so I will create three objects inside the array. Just make sure to spell it right. Questions is an array, and question is the objects property that hold the question, singular and plural. Fine, let me make 50, 500. Let me change the number, or you can say change the options. These are the options. 10,000 is false, and 900 is also false. 500 plus 500 is 1000. Now let me create another question the same way. Now I'm giving 500 plus 50 plus 50. It is false, and this time we'll leave it that way. Fine. And 100, it's true. 550 plus 50 is 100, so I'm making it true. Fine, we have created three objects in the array. So we will pass one by one to the HTML. So right now we have created an array which holds the questions in the object form. So let me show you how to access the object inside the array by passing the index. The questions hold all the objects. So if you refer 0, that means it's the first question. Let me show you the message itself on the console. So if you refresh it and click on console, you'll see if you click on submit, that's when it will give you the message. Fine. 5, you don't have to click because I have not added click listener. I have placed the code outside. So if you refer 1, that means it's the second object in the array. So you're getting the object, you can see you're getting the object itself. That means it is the collection of question and the answer options, starting from 0 and ends in, it says undefined, because I would like to get the property question. So you can see on the first question I can access the question using the index 0. It's the first question. Now if you want to make the answer, you can see object, it's in the object form, it's in the array form, it contains the object. It will be undefined. Let me see. What you have to do is you have to pass index number to the answers. It's also an array as like question. Questions hold 3 question and answers hold 4 answer. So if you see 15 shows up. If you wish to get 10, you need to pass the index 1 to it. The array starts from 0. If you wish to get 25, so you need to pass index 2. Now we're going to create a variable that holds the index. Likewise, we have passed 0 to it and we have manually changed from 0 to 2, but here in JavaScript we will pass this index 0 to the question and we will increment it each time whenever we click on next button. Fine. For now we'll just pass the index 0 to it. So you will get the question number 1, first question, because we have made the index 0 to it. This is the first question. It's an object. If you make it 2, we are manually changing it to, but in the JavaScript I will be incrementing it. As I said, on every button click the index number will be incremented. Fine. The next thing, we are going to get the question and I'm going to populate it into the HTML. I have shown you how to get questions from the array and show it in the console. Now we are going to do it in the HTML. Access the question with index 0, it simply means the first question. Pass the property name, so, and store it. Get the element here is question with ID and I've stored into a variable. Pass the variable and use the property inner HTML. With the help of inner text, what you can do is you can pass the query to it, 5 plus 5. If you change the index to 1, you'll get the second question. Now it's 500 plus 500. Likewise, if you change it 0, you'll get the first question. Fine. Now I'm going to populate the answer. Likewise, we did it for question, we are going to do it for the answer as well. Since answer is the collection of object, it's an array, it is a collection of object. Already we have 4 buttons which I have designed into HTML. So these are the buttons which is coming from HTML, and now we are going to dynamically append these value into the HTML. It's also going to be a button. So for that, as I said, it's already a array. So we can use forEach. Get the array, you can access it this way. You are getting the array. Now I'm going to use forEach and I can get When I run this console, I was getting 3 or 4 of them on the reload, but I want them one by one so that I can use click listener on them. So using console, using this for each, I can get one by one. So if you console log and see, you will get 4 separate objects. And now it's the boolean variable. Now I'm going to create a element which would be a button and store it into a variable called button, and this button will hold the text of the answer. We can access one by one, and I'm using the property answer. Once the button is created, I want it to append it inside the container with id answer container, append child, and append the button to it. Now if you refresh it, you're getting all the static and the dynamic. Let me remove the static one using the while loop. Let me create a while loop, and this while loop will run until there is one child in the container. Which container? The answer container. Until, use a while, pass the parameter until there is first child, remove the child from the container itself. Let me see what we get. We are getting the text because it's the direct child of the container. So if you want the element, you have to use first element child. Again, there is a space, that's why it is showing text. I want the element, for that I'll use first element child. Now it's working. Now I want to run this for loop. You can see we are getting the first one. What we need to do is we will run the for loop until there is one child, that is first child left, and inside the for loop I'll remove all the child. By this way, what it does is it will remove all the static created value along with our dynamically created. So we need to place it above our dynamically created one. So while loop runs first, it will clear all the static details, and then the dynamically created buttons shows up on the HTML. Let me comment it as dynamically created answer button. Till now I was going from top to bottom. I have not created any separate function. We will be creating separate function for each module. Now get to know which button is clicked using the children property. So choose a container. The container here is answer container HTML. Choose a container, and with the help of children property you can get all the button inside the container. Since we have pasted only button, we will get only the buttons as a children. So let me console log and show. It will give you the HTML collection. So convert the HTML to array. We are going to convert the HTML to array using the Array.from function. So let me show you two different messages. The first one will simply give you the collection, and the second one will simply give you the array format. Array format will be in the square bracket, and HTML collection we'll see. You can see the first one is HTML collection, and the second one I have converted to array, and that's working fine. Now I'm going to run the for each loop on the array. So let me run a for each loop so that I can add click listener to it. So this click listener will simply let you know whether you have clicked on the right button or whether you have clicked on the wrong button. If you have clicked on the right button, the next question button should show up. If you click on wrong button, simply you need to change the background color of the container. Fine. Now let me see whether we are getting the button individually or not. Yes, we are getting the button individually. Let me add a click listener. So when I click on the button, individual button, what I want to do is, let me just console it, and I want to know which button is clicked. So for that I'll pass E as an event. Console.log e.target will give you the HTML element where you have clicked. So if I click on button, I'll get the button where I have clicked, which button I have clicked. If I click on 10, you can see 10 button shows up, value with 50 shows up, but all of them cannot be how to find whether it is right or wrong. So for that, while appending dynamically, I will create an attribute for the button, and that button will simply hold the correct property of the object, and the attribute I'm going to create is data hyphen correct, and the value is a boolean value. So if you refresh, if you click on anything, you can see it's true right now. If you click on other, you will get false. Likewise, we can distinguish whether it is true or false, that is right or wrong. So when I click on a button, I want to get the data hyphen correct attribute. So that is what holds whether it is true or false. So I'm going to pass a condition if. So before that, let me show you the attributes value. Click on any button, it will get the data hyphen correct value. Fine. Now if it is true, as I said, I want to change the color of the container to green and show the next button. Let me make if. We have passed boolean, but it will consider it as a string. So what I'll do is, I'll get we will be doing two things. The first one is we will be adding next button, and the second one is we will be changing the color of the button using the class called success, which I have defined it in the CSS. Yes, when I click on it, I'm getting the color green, and this green is only applicable with the data hyphen correct as true, and you can see it's working for everything. That is because it is considering it as a string. Let me pass it as a string. It is not a boolean value, I'm passing it as string. So green will be only applied where it is true. Fine. Now let me change the background of the container. Choose the button is inside this container, so let me change the color of this container. Choose the current element. So the parent element will simply give you the parent of the button. So if you click on 10, you'll see the parent of the button is selected, and I want to select the question container. So you need to pass 2 times the parent element to access the parent. You can see the question container is selected now. Now if you add one more time, the whole container will be selected. The same way, if it is wrong, if you clicked on a wrong which does not contain true attribute, true value, it will change it to orange. But if you click on 10, it is not working. So for that, you have to add and remove each time. This time I'll remove it, and in this case I'll add the So I'll remove the success. Now both of them are working. Now we are going to check if it is true. Let me show you the, let me change the color of the button. Before that, we'll give you the class, and I'm going to add the class success, which will be green in color. Orange, and now it turns to green. If it is correct, then show the next button. We have stored it into a variable called next, and I'm going to remove the class height. Now if you click on 10, the next shows up. Fine. Now if we clicked on next, what we need to do is we need to show the next question. So the function is getting recursive right now. So once I click, what I need to do is I want to show the next question. So for that, I want to increase the index number by 1. So once I increase the index number by 1, what it will do is it will simply do all the things which we have done for the past 26 minutes. So for that, let me increment it. We have incremented it. Now we want to remove and dynamically add the code, that is which we have already done. We are going to repeat it. So this is not a good way of doing anything. So what I'll do is you'll see, let me remove the previous children of container using while loop, as we have already done before. So you can see the code is getting repeated. So for that, what I'll do is I'll create a function, and now if you see, we have repeated the code for dynamically created button, and we have repeated the code for removing all the buttons in the container, and the code is working fine. But the thing is, this is not the right way. We have incremented the index, we have populated the question also. Now create a function for repeating codes. I'm going to separate all the functions, the repeating function. First let me start with the while, which will remove all the buttons. So I'll create a function called clear buttons, and inside the clear buttons function I'll pass this code. Likewise, I'll create another function that will help you to dynamically create the button from the array. So in place of the whole code, you can just replace it with a function. Let me create a function for dynamically created with the help of dynamic button, dynamic answer button, and we will be calling this function wherever we have written the dynamic code. And don't forget to pass the index, because each time the index is getting different. If you don't pass the index, you will be getting the same index, that is 0 for every next button click. You have to pass this when I click on the start button. So far we have created two functions. We need to create another function, and that will simply check whether you have clicked on the proper button or not. So let me create a function over here, and that function will simply name as check answer, create a function and replace the code. And now once I click on the next button, in the next button is already showing up. So for I don't want to show the next button until and unless I click on next. That's working. So this on the second answer fetch, the next button is by default showing up. So for that I have to choose a place where I can add the class hide. So we'll hide, use the dynamically button is added, and then I need to remove the class, or you can say I need to add a class which is hide, that will hide the next button. If you click on the right, you can see it is gone because we have added the hide class. Now again we are getting the loop. We are going to use the same code. Let me create a function for that. Next question, create a function next question. Now let's see whether we are getting the third question or not. Not working. Let me see why. When I click on the right hand side, it is not showing up. We have passed the index, we have incremented the index, and we have cleared all the buttons, and we have dynamically updated the button, and we have missed the question. We need to populate the question over here. Let it be over there. We have cleared the button, we have dynamically added the button, we have added the class hide to it, and after that we need to set a question. We need to call the check answer. If it's wrong, it's not showing up. If it's right, and next is showing up. And if it's and everything is working fine, now we are getting the third question also. And once everything is done, the array will reach to out of index, because it is trying to read the index number which is out of the length of the array. That means it is simply exceeding the length of the array. So let's use a condition. So it is try to accessing the fourth question. Since there are no four question, before appending the answer, we'll pass a question. If the questions which is array, if the array's length is greater than the index number, array starts with 0, and so our index then append, or else show the message you have completed the task. +50 plus 50 is 100, and you will get a message that you have completed. And along with the alert message, I want the questions HTML to have a text like you have completed the quiz. And after the message, we will be using the start button, but instead of the text start, we will be using the text restart. Once you click on start, Again the index will convert to 0 and start from 0 to till the length of the array is reached. That means it is going to loop. Once we have reached the third question, we have to get again the first question. Once we click on restart, you can see this is the third question. It says the message you have completed the quiz, but it is not showing the button. Let me see why. We have to remove the class hide from the start button. Message with the button restart. If we click to restart, it is going to loop through again. And that's all for this video. Thank you so much for listening.